The Laura Ingraham Show.
The Trump transition team may have been monitored, okay? And then you had Bob Woodward, the venerable White House, or Washington, rather, correspondent, saying that he believes some Obama officials might be facing criminal penalty. They may have crossed the line in covering or trying to monitor the doings and the communications of the Trump team, maybe in Trump Tower. Remember, this is really all about whether the president is right or wrong, whether he lied or stretched the truth or indeed is a truth teller. Remember, he sent out that tweet saying, Obama wiretapped Trump Tower. I just found this out. Well, he's using a loose term, but the fact is there were gathering of officials and communications coming in and out of Trump Tower. Now, I'll try to break some of this down for you, and then we'll talk about why it's important. We're going to have an FBI agent on in a little bit, a former assistant director in charge of the FBI's New York division, James Kallstrom, will come unpack this. Why is this important? I'll tell you why. Because it's happening to you and me. They are tapping and collecting information on you. And the question is something of masking. You see, classified intelligence, this sort of intelligence, they call it incidental. Here's what it appears happened, okay? The Obama administration, and this is according to a number of reports. I just read James Rosen's piece on Fox News, which is very detailed. The upshot is this. They didn't directly target Donald Trump, Donald Jr., General Flynn, on and on and on. They didn't target those people directly. What they did, brilliantly, it appears that Obama administration officials may have targeted foreign individuals and foreign governments, knowing that they would have contact with the transition team, which is natural when you have a team and a president coming to power. They are going to make contacts with various heads of state. So you send out all network observation of these foreign entities, and you collect what is called incidental intelligence, meaning, we didn't mean to wiretap your phone, Mrs. Brown. We just targeted all your neighbors and friends. We thought they might be of concern. And see, that gives you a little lack of accountability. You can kind of put distance between what you really are doing and what it appears you're doing on paper. So we're going to get into all of this with James Kallstrom. Now, meanwhile on the Hill, Nancy Pelosi is going to need another stretch because she is just coming apart over what she's hearing and watching, because Nunes dared to come out and brief the president and say, look, we think you've been the subject of this incidental information that's been collected, and we believe we have evidence. In fact, the NSA is supposed to reveal information to the committee today, Friday, which is being called a smoking gun. Here's the Pelosi reaction.
Deflector-in-chief created some kind of a scenario where he either duped or the chairman of the committee was a willing stooge. He committed a stunt with the White House yesterday, raising questions about Chairman Nunes's impartiality, especially giving his history as a part of the Trump transition team.
And then, of course, there's the ranking member of the committee, Schiff, Congressman Adam Schiff, who took after Nunes for daring to air these, what he calls unsubstantiated reports, and brief the president on them.
Have our chair acting as a
compromise,
as a surrogate for the administration. Yeah. He has to either have the surrogate role or the chairman role, but he can't do both.
Yeah.
Well, briefing the president, I want your reaction to this. Maybe this is being blown out. Is briefing the president on intelligence gathering that may have been done ethically or unethically, legally or illegally, is that out of bounds for the chairman of the Intelligence Committee when it might have concerned the president and his administration? 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872, and we have a full deck for you today. This health care bill is moving through Congress, as you know. It is being changed by the minute. The president inviting members of the Freedom Caucus in and out of the White House. This thing looks like an ongoing cocktail party. They're in, they're out, they're moving. This is like the Christmas parties at the White House. They have multiple parties a night. And they invite people, and they come in, and they all snap pictures, and then that group leaves, and another group comes in. They, put new hors d'oeuvres out. Well, that's what's happening at the White House these days to move this health care bill. This has been going on. They're adapting and adjusting the bill. Changes are being made at this hour, but the president is determined to have a vote today. We are going to talk about it, unpack it for you over the next few hours. What does it mean? What will it mean to your health care? Do those premiums go up? Do those deductibles go up? We're going to discuss all of that. Congressman Ron DeSantis is here, who is on the fence about the bill. We'll find out where he's landing. Representative Mo Brooks will join us from Alabama's 5th District. He is, at this moment, opposed to the bill. And then later we're going to get into something that's very near and dear to my heart, something we don't think about much. And I was giving a talk the other day. And some of you might know I have a children's book out, Will Wilder, The Lost Staff of Wonders, which makes a great Easter gift, I might add. When I was giving a speech, we were talking about literacy and the consequences of illiteracy, which is on the rise in the United States. 21 million illiterate people out there. And what this means to a democratic republic. So we're going to talk about all of that, too, the high price of illiteracy and what we can do about it later in the show. Much to get to. We'll get into the culture. We're going to talk about the new Chips movie. Have you seen these things? Why do they keep repeating the same movie and storyline again and again? If I have to see Beauty and the Beast, Chips, one movie after another, that with Pinocchio's now coming, we've seen all of these movies done better. Yet they keep bringing them up. Why? We'll get into all of that. 855-405-2872. Raymond Arroyo sitting in for Laura Ingraham. Delighted to be doing so. We'll be back with James Kallstrom, the former assistant director in charge of the FBI's New York division, to talk about the smoking gun in the Trump wiretap charges. Coming up when the Laura Ingraham Show continues. That the Obama administration had wiretapped Trump Tower. Did it happen? Did it not happen? Does it matter? And is this much ado about nothing? We have a guest coming up, Raymond Arroyo, by the way, sitting in for Laura Ingraham. It's not, Laura's voice hasn't dropped this low. She's working on it, but she's not there yet. And coming up, James Kallstrom, who's the former assistant director in charge of the FBI's New York division. He'll join us in just a moment. I want to go to the phones. Robert, you wanted to say what?
At least it was a violation of protocol what he did. Because in my young age, when I was in the Army at Fort Meade, I had the opportunity to go to the 11th Battalion Special Forces, and we were attached to the NSA, providing security most of the time, and we had to have a top-secret security clearance. If I found out that somebody was under investigation and I went to them and said, hey, you need to check this out, that would violate so many things because, first, if you're a subject of investigation, particularly if it's with Russian influence, you could just say, all right, I'm going to stop that, I'm going to delete this, I'm going to cover this up. It was wrong, all the way wrong. I was registered Republican, now I'm no party affiliation, but this is insane that this happened.
Okay, thanks for the comment. We're going to go to Rita on line 3. Rita from Virginia, you wanted to say what?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hi?
Yes?
Is it famous?
Yes, it is.
We just got finished reading your Lost Staff of Wonders. It is a great book.
Oh, well, thank you.
Wilder is my favorite. My grandson loved the first was great. The second, are you coming to Harrisburg anytime soon?
I'm not coming to Harrisburg, but that's very sweet. Thank you I'm glad you passed the book along and you enjoyed it.
Could you do a giveaway today? Because some of my
now you're asking for free copies of the Will Wilder book. Maybe I may do some giveaways later. We got to get.
Well,
Rita,
Raymond, I love the book. The book was fabulous.
Oh, now Rita's voice did drop by several octaves, and that is Laura Ingraham, if my ears do not deceive.
Oh, you know something? Number one, I did love Will Wilder and the Lost Staff of Wonders. Number two, you're doing a fabulous job filling in for me. And number three, how many times can James Kallstrom come on our show in a week? I mean, he was just on 2 days ago. Is Drew there, or is he not booking the show today?
James is going to be our new co-host on the Laura Ingraham Show. No, well, it's important to get into this because you do need people of substance who understand this because it can be very complicated, I think, for the public.
Well, I would like to speak up on Rita's behalf. She's a woman of great substance, and great passion, which is missing in Washington D.C. Raymond, have a great show. I will say this: on the health care bill.
Yes.
They should have laid the groundwork with the conservatives before they started pushing this thing through Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan didn't do that. The legwork he needed to do on this bill, and even if they push something through, it's way too many bruised egos and lost opportunities. So that was very unfortunate. But I'm with Devin Nunes and against Joe Scarborough. So on that note, I will let you host the fabulous Laura Ingraham Show. And I heard that comment about my low voice. I have a bad throat, so you're. No,
I said it was going. It was going low. It wasn't there yet. I was setting it up for you.
I like coffee with character. My
yeah.
husband really likes it, and I never argue.
Yeah, you're going to be the new Folger spokeswoman after, and Fancy Feast. You could take over from Lauren Bacall.
I love Fancy Feast. My cat loves Fancy Feast.
Okay.
I love you. Bye.
Love you too. Enjoy your time off or wherever you are on assignment. Now I do want to go to James Kallstrom, who's the former assistant director in charge of the FBI's New York division. James, thanks so much for being with us. Can you give folks a sense? This is very hard for them to process. What is incidental collection of intelligence? What does that even mean? And was this nothing more than a ruse for Obama administration officials to, under the cloak of normalcy, monitor the Trump transition team?
The last point you made, and hi, Raymond, it's nice being on with you.
How are you? Great to
The last point you made, I think, is probably correct. I don't know for a fact, but that there are. I can't go really too deep into this because it's pretty much all classified.
Sure.
Process even, not so much even the information, but a lot of this has been laid out, the process at least in these hearings, these public hearings, which basically were a farce. I don't know what the purpose of the public hearings were, quite frankly, but in any case, yes, I mean, there's authorized, legally judge-ordered interception of some communications of foreign adversaries. And, if while that is going on, others get on the line, either Americans or anybody around the world, that's going to be incidental interception. In the case of American citizens, the rules are very strict. That has to be minimized instantly. In other words, they may give you a minute or two just to figure out, what the comment is about and if it could possibly be something criminal or something related to foreign counterintelligence. But at that point, it has to stop, and you cannot collect on an American citizen. And you cannot let the name out either unless there is some sort of a conspiracy going on that further investigation is warranted. Yeah, and even in those cases, NSA or whoever is doing the monitoring does not unmask those names because it's really irrelevant at some point until the investigation gets further on. In this case, we have a major felony. We know this. Multiple people, apparently, if you believe the New York Times, leaked this information and laid out not only the name of the general, but laid out apparently, from at least what's in the public domain, I don't know it for a fact, laid out the transcript of what the conversation was about. Mm-hmm. And here we have testimony under oath from the director of national intelligence saying to his knowledge there was no Pfizer or any kind of interception going on. And you've got the strange testimony of the FBI director that confirms that there's some investigation going back to July concerning, did Russia influence the election or Russia's been trying to influence things since I was a boy. But in this case, this is really a serious matter. And I suspect there's 4 or 5 people that had access to this information and and provided it to numerous, the McClatchy newspapers, the New York Times and others.
Mm-hmm. No, there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal today. Pete Hoekstra is writing, the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, saying he would never have had access to this kind of info. But according to Nunes, such information made its way to the Obama White House before Inauguration Day. My problem is this unmasking we keep reading about. Quickly, James Kallstrom, before we run out of time, the identities of the people in these transcripts are not revealed, but they apparently were unmasked and revealed to the Obama team. Why? Who would do this?
I don't know, and we need to find that out quickly. And that is a real, not only a process problem. That, to me, that depending on why it was done, I mean, it could fall into the criminal side of the fence.
As you know, there was supposed to be a vote yesterday on this health care bill, and it didn't happen. And it didn't happen after all this last-minute charm offensive. They sent Bannon and Priebus to the Hill. Kellyanne Conway was running around trying to whip up votes, get support. The Freedom Caucus just doesn't like this bill. Remember, the House Republicans have voted to repeal Obamacare 90 times without those measures ever becoming law. Now that they have the power to do it, apparently nobody gave it enough thought to figure out what they would do once they repealed it. So now reality kicks in. I mean, guys, you had 7 years. It's not like this was a surprise, right? Let's go to Doug. Doug, you wanted to say what about this health care back and forth? Now things are stalled, but they're going to have a vote today. Come hell or high water, the president wants it. You would say what?
Yeah, what I'm thinking here, I think a lot of voters think the same thing, is that first of all, you have to reconsider that Paul Ryan was an anti-Trumper to begin with, and that the Republicans weren't prepared because I don't think anyone expected Trump to be elected in the first place. I think that's something that needs to be touched upon.
Mm-hmm. Good point. No, there was clearly a lack of preparation here. You had 7 years to figure something out. And, and Tom Price, the Health and Human Services Secretary, he had a very good bill that has been voted on in the past. That was, I think, the centerpiece of this. But now they're yanking things out and throwing things in at the last minute just to, this is like the Cornhusker kickback. Remember that when Obamacare was being passed? Healthcare is always a quagmire. It's a very difficult thing to move. It always is. I covered the Clinton White House when Hillary ran off to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and got everybody together and all the healthcare people and advocates. Bill Clinton couldn't do it. Obama almost didn't do it. They rammed it through at the last minute and just bought everybody off, and they had what ended up being, this leviathan of a bill. But the Republicans had 7 years to figure out how to repeal this, how to credibly fix the holes and the problems that are damning the thing, and to create another free market possibility. This doesn't seem to be it. There's a lot of people who are just deeply upset. Now the president is tweeting. I want to read these to you. Just landed this morning. After 7 horrible years of Obamacare, skyrocketing premiums and deductibles, bad health care, this is finally your chance for a great plan. Then he sent this one out. The irony is that the Freedom Caucus, which is very pro-life and against Planned Parenthood, allows Planned Parenthood to continue if they stop this plan. So the president ratcheting up the pressure on the Freedom Caucus. As you heard earlier, it looks like they're 20 to 30 votes down. They don't have the votes to move this thing. Paul Ryan was really the architect of this health care plan. And we're going to get into this in a moment with Congressman Ron DeSantis, who's going to join us. It is concerning, I think, that, and from what I'll tell you what I'm hearing from the Hill. Let me tell you what I'm hearing from Congress people. Paul Ryan basically took this upon himself and thought, I will do this. I know what needs fixing. And with little consultation, he kind of cobbled together this bill. Now what we're learning is when others start to read it, they have concerns. The tax subsidies are a problem to them. The deductibles and the premiums seem to continue to rise under this plan, and less people will be covered. That's not good. We have some callers on the line, and I will get to you all. Please keep your patience.
Raymond, I also want to point out that Trump was
405.
with the truckers yesterday, and he had a few things to say on Obamacare if we want to throw that bite out to our audience.
Yeah, go ahead and play that. This was Donald Trump yesterday. He got in the cab of this truck and, made fists and a kind of grumpy face, putting on a tough, mien. And it's obvious that he is frustrated with his
Obamacare has
congressional roadblock. Listen.
Obamacare has inflicted great pain on American truckers. Many of you were forced to buy health insurance on the Obamacare exchanges. You experienced a crippling rise in premiums and a dramatic loss in options. And you just take a look at what's happened to the costs, and it's incredible. You look at what's going on with deductibles, where they're through the roof. So essentially you don't have it, because hopefully you'll never have to use it, because you won't have that kind of injury or sickness. So you know the problems, and it's put a lot of the trucking businesses out of business.
So again, he keeps strumming this drum, beating this drum. The president is clearly frustrated. Look, he's never had to deal with the inaction of Congress. Trump is an executive who says, look, this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're going. Hang on. Everybody come with me. And that's what it seems that is the pattern he has been engaged in when these Freedom Caucus members come and sit at the White House. He's saying, look, it's now or never. This is it. We're going. We're moving forward. And they're looking over their shoulders at re-election. They're looking at the calls coming in, and then they're checking their guts, because some of this does run afoul of conservative principles on the economy, on giving tax breaks and subsidies to individuals, which essentially becomes a subsidy. The tax breaks become a subsidy, the rebates. So there's a lot of displeasure with the specificity of this bill. The specifics are causing people to say, wait a minute. And it's going to portend more trouble down the road, because this Congress is going to be asked to do things like raise the debt ceiling, spend $1 trillion on infrastructure. All of this violates, by the way, the things these very people have run on, the core of the kind of conservative message. So there is an interesting the dance that's going to have to happen here over the next few months. And the president's decided that he wants to and will call this vote today. He wants it today. And he said, we'll see who's with us or against us. One gets the feeling Donald Trump's going to be taking names. We shall see. Let's go to Mike in Florida. You wanted to add what, Mike? You've been watching this play out. What do you think?
I think that Donald Trump, I voted for Donald Trump. I support Donald Trump, but I think he's wrong in trying to say, take this plan or else you keep Obamacare. That was never part of the platform that he ran on, that you'll take the plan that I present, or by gosh, I'll just take my toys and go home and you can keep your Obamacare. That's not what he was elected for. You formulate a plan, you get a group together, and you compromise and you work it out, and then you present your plan that everybody supports.
Mm-hmm. No, there was clearly not enough. I mean, Laura said it earlier. There was not enough legwork done, foundation laid with the conservatives in the Congress to figure out, okay, what are the must-dos in this bill that will, A, lower the premiums, allow people to get the care they need, but create a free market approach that you can run on and be proud of. That conversation, it seems, didn't happen. I mean, they were meeting with Aetna and the insurance companies, and the insurance companies are doing the happy dance. They all look like Snoopy now. But the bill, when you read it, is a problem. It would dismantle much of Obamacare's taxes and the subsidies, but it replaces them with tax credits that are tied to age, aimed at, helping people afford insurance if they don't get it through employers. But that's a problem, the way that's structured for many conservatives. And at the same time, this is a kitchen table issue. This is going to affect you and me. Your premiums are going to go up or not. And so I think these Congress people are in gut check mode right now. And you have, at the moment, you don't have enough people to pass the bill. But the president's throwing it down. Now we're talking about Planned Parenthood. I don't know why they can't defund Planned Parenthood as part of a budget agreement. I don't know why you have to do it as part of health care, but The president does say the irony is that the Freedom Caucus, which is very pro-life and against Planned Parenthood, allows Planned Parenthood to continue if they stop this plan. I also, the president should be cautioned about, and indeed there was a piece the other day about Mike Pence, Vice President Pence, telling the president, call this Ryan Care. Keep a little distance between yourself and this health care plan. This isn't your plan. This is Congress's plan. He didn't do that. The president has decided to really double down and throw in. You saw Bannon up at the Hill last night. I mean, they are really going for broke on this. They are going for broke. So what are the implications? And what do you see? Many of you supported Donald Trump. This was the moment you wanted. He promised to repeal Obamacare and replace it. What are you seeing? Does this disturb you, or is this just part of the legislative process and the normal clash of the offices, the executive branch with the congressional branch, and you have to let this play out? 855-405-2872. Sean Spicer spoke about this yesterday. Watch.
If the bill doesn't pass, should the Speaker resign? Should Paul Ryan resign as Speaker of the House?
That's absolutely not. This has been a great team effort on the Republican behalf, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to be necessary because I think the President has made a very, very strong case as to why this is everything that we have talked about for years.
But if it doesn't pass, Sean, can the President still have confidence in the Speaker to deliver his caucus?
You know what, Eric,
if it doesn't?
Look, I understand the question, Eric, but I'm not thinking that way.
This is going to be interesting. Who gets the blame if this bill goes down? The president is calling this bill. President's a brawler. President Trump wants things done. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And if you're not doing it, my guess is he's going to pull out the old, you're fired. You're fired. Get out. Pack up your things and leave. In your gym bag. Bye. Okay, let's go to Lee. Lee, you wanted to say what?
I'd like to say that, honestly, as much as I dislike Obamacare, I'm praying this bill does not pass.
Why?
Because I think they're leading Trump down the wrong road. The world isn't how we wish it to be. It's how it is. It's law for 6 years. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court. I don't like it, but it's like moving earth. It's hard. It's heavy, and it may make the bill. It may make it worse. And they're going to use it as a club to beat us over the head, and we won't get to throw the grenade back into Pelosi's lap and say, you broke the entire American healthcare system, and you won't lift a finger to help us fix it. You own it. I tried. I'm sorry. We're moving on. I am begging Republicans to let this bill fail. Please let it go. I swear, Trump's not going to lose any credibility over this.
You don't think he does? Let me tell you. Look,
I don't, because he gets on the line and he says Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Obama destroyed the entire healthcare system. We tried to fix it. We used every ounce of capital we could. We can't make it better. It may, in fact, make it worse. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want to hurt the poor. We don't want to hurt people for premiums going up higher. We tried. We're moving on to tax reform. Democrats own this forever, and they are to blame, not the Freedom Caucus. And I'm begging Trump, I am begging you guys to not blame the Freedom Caucus. Do not blame Republicans and further push a wedge further between the Republican Party. Blame Democrats every time
Lee.
you get a microphone in front of your face, please.
Okay, Lee, take a breath, because I'm going to ask you to react to this. I disagree with you on this point. I'm reading Gerald Sieb's piece in the Wall Street Journal today, hardly the New York Times. And in it, he says, former President Barack Obama tried a big fix in health care, and he came away with scars to show for it. Now, House Speaker Paul Ryan and President Trump are trying for the big health care fix, and they are coming away with the scars to show for it as well. And the point being, okay, Obamacare was such a disaster. People are suffering. The deductibles are going through the roof. They feel the pinch, the money flying out of their household budget. President Trump and these Republicans promised to repeal and replace Obamacare. I disagree with you that they don't get blamed if they don't repeal and replace it with something better. I do think they're blamed. However, that said, I don't know why you do this first. Anybody who knows the congressional process, and I've covered Congress now for 20 years, you know it's not the bills themselves. Those are very important. But sometimes, in fact, many times, the stacking and the order in which you bring a bill forward determines the success of your real important legislative agenda pieces. They should have moved forward with something like today. Look, we're not talking about a big story. The Trump administration today approved the Keystone Pipeline that everybody wanted for years and years and years. That's moving forward. The permits are going out today. That's a great story. Energy independence. This is what people wanted. We're not hearing about that because we've got this infighting over health care. You don't do the most divisive, destructive thing that Bill Clinton couldn't get done. Obama almost didn't get done, except by hook and by crook, and I mean that literally. Forcing the thing, buying people off to get it through. Now it is a quagmire.
That's what they're doing now, though. That's what
exactly.
They're doing now. They're not doing interstate commerce. They're not doing drug prices. There's all kinds of payoff.
That's phase 3, Lee, remember?
We may take some shrapnel, but I think the Democrats will own this forever. Honest to God, I think they're taking Trump down the wrong road.
My advice would be... Yeah, I understand your frustration, and many people are saying this is down the wrong road. The president is being led astray here. Maybe he is. Had anyone asked my advice, and I think others would agree with this, I would have said, find the issues that you can unify your base around. So you are building political capital and legislative momentum. So you are moving as one. Get tax reform through. Get regulation reform through. You have Keystone Pipeline to celebrate. Boom, boom, boom. And then when you get that settled, then you have the fight over health care. But by that time, that would buy you the time to build a real consensus around a bill that everybody can be happy about. Live or die. This is your bill that's built on conservative principle that you can celebrate when you go into the next election cycle. And barring that, you're not going to get anything. Raymond Arroyo sitting in for Laura Ingraham. We'll be right back in a moment. We had several congressmen who were lined up, and they are running in circles trying to figure out what's up and when the vote is actually going to be called. It's a big moment. It's a gut check moment for a lot of members on the Hill. But for Nancy Pelosi to stand there and sanctimoniously suggest to Paul Ryan and to members of the Freedom Caucus that they're going to have this vote tattooed to their head, you created this monster. You know, this is a little like Dr. Frankenstein defending the monster as he eats the villagers. I mean, give me a break. Nancy Pelosi, tattoo. She should know about things tattooed to your forehead. I'm not going to get into surgical details, but just imagine. I'll let your imagination run wild. Okay, let's go to the phones. A lot of you want to talk about this. Ron in California, what do you make of this bill? This is they claim that this is a do-or-die moment for the president, and some are saying that if he doesn't pass this, it will be a black eye to his vision, his agenda, and prove he could whip up a crowd at a rally, but he can't govern. You would say what?
I'd say no, Raymond. I am the middle class out here in our hinterland. We are tired of the fees, taxes, regulations. Mm-hmm. You're killing the goose that laid the golden egg now. You know, this government has to start thinking on our level because we are the payers. We are tired of this overpriced crap that they send us. Let's go back to Medicare like it was before. It was working fine. Poor people had aid through that. Let's dump this new bill and start over in a year or two when they really get it right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know what the rush is. I don't know what the rush is here, Ron. Again, stacking of legislative priorities is important. That demonstrates authority and competence. And it's really up to the Speaker and the members of leadership on the House to figure out what is the first bill we roll out. And the administration should have been advising them and saying, look, we don't want to go with health care first. This is not the number one thing. But you see, the president had campaigned on it. He said one of the first things I'm going to do is repeal and replace Obamacare. But they led him to believe they had a plan to do so. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a credible plan, if you have one that violates and upsets your base, and that's what the Freedom Caucus represents. I mean, you got 30 to 40 votes that just won't move on this thing. Now, maybe they've assuaged their concerns, and we will see a squeaker today on Capitol Hill. I'm not so sure at this moment. But I want to hear from the rest of you. Is this do or die for you? If the president and the Congress can't get a bill now, is that, to your mind, a failure for the promises made? Or is it okay to wait? Is it okay to take a breath, take a few months, get your caucus together, and find free market, principled, conservative means to correct the health care woes? This is look, let me be in full candor. Anyone who tells you this is easy is lying to you. Healthcare is fraught with difficulty because, like a tentacled monster, it wraps around taxes, it wraps around subsidies to states, it's Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security payments. Everything comes into play. Healthcare is a leviathan. I mean, the president tweeted today, if you don't support this, you're supporting Planned Parenthood. Where's the Freedom Caucus on this? Defund them in the budget, in a budget deal. You can strike them from the budget. Now, they too are Leviathan, wrapped up in Title X funds and other ways of getting and means of getting money. But you go line by line and strike it out. It can be done. Everything takes time. I think there would have been other bills better to move forward. Wins, as my friend Larry Kudlow always says. Trump needed wins on the board. I don't know if this is going to get him there. We'll see. Let's go to Pat in Indiana. You wanted to say what, Pat?
I'm just so disappointed with the established Republicans. Trump ought to be on the side of the Freedom Caucus people.
What's that ringing in the back, Pat? Are you in a car?
Yes, I am.
Oh, put that seatbelt on, Pat. I get that darn thing screaming at me all the time. Don't you hate that beeping?
I had to stop.
Oh,
okay.
You poor darling. Go ahead.
That's all right. But, people aren't going to feel bad about Trump if he will just stick with the people who brought him to that office. And that's the conservatives and the independents. Instead of them trying to browbeat the caucus, it ought to be the other way around. People didn't want a light replacement. They wanted a total replacement. Mm-hmm. And, I just hate to think what this country would be in if the people that are in our Congress today had actually had to write the Constitution. They'd never get it done. They never get anything done.
Yeah. No, the president, look, it was even difficult then. I mean, you read that Constitutional Convention and what happened there and the theatrics that Alexander Hamilton and others pulled. It was a miracle that anything happened there. But looking at our contemporary situation, you raise a good point, Pat. This is an interesting point. Maybe it might have been a wiser political play for the president to indeed, as his vice president suggested, call this thing Ryan Care, keep it at arm's length, and as these concerns came to you, come out with the Freedom Caucus and say, you know what? We've decided this thing needs to be shelved. It's not where the people that brought me to this office feel this should be. This is not what they voted for, and I will not support a bill unless it does the things that we're looking for, and it doesn't have subsidies in it, and it doesn't drop coverage, and it doesn't raise deductibles and premiums. And unless that happens, I'm not supporting it. The CBO just scored this thing, by the way. It loses. It actually makes the deficit goes up under the new bill, and less people are covered. So how is that progress? And there are others who say, no, this Obamacare thing is so bad, just repeal it outright. But the moment you do that, there's going to be so many people thrown off the system, there'll be caterwauling, and you will pay the political price. So why deal with health care now? This is my big question. Thank you, Pat. I hope that the tire gets fixed. I'm sorry to hear that. Let's go to Chris. Chris in Texas. Texas is all what you want. If you want to know the gut of the American people, talk to a Texan. Chris, your thoughts on this health care bill and the rush to vote it in?
Yes, we're proud to be represented by Louis Gohmert here in Tyler, and I'm very happy that they're standing up and saying no. And I think Trump has made a mistake when he tried to put an ultimatum out there and say it's now or never, because people like Louis Gohmert in the Freedom Caucus they see Obamacare as eventually failing, and they've, I think, properly identified this replacement bill as having the same ultimate end, failing. And so when you say to those people, well, you got to get on board with this or else, well, that doesn't really threaten them because they see it failing either way. The only solution long term to save our country's healthcare system is a full repeal. They know it. So when he's given this ultimatum, he's taking the leverage away.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. It's a good point. There was a piece in the Washington Post last night. It dropped. I read this when it first landed. The president apparently does have misgivings about the direction of this thing. But my feeling is he needs to be public about it. And if you look at the tweets, he's saying the opposite. But the Washington Post piece reported President Trump has been projecting his usual bravado in public this week about the prospects of repealing the Affordable Care Act. Privately, he is grappling with rare bouts of self-doubt. Mr. Trump has told 4 people close to him that he regrets going along with Speaker Paul Ryan's plan to push a health care overhaul before unveiling a tax cut proposal more politically palatable to Republicans. He said ruefully this week that he should have done tax reform first when it became clear that the quick-hit health care victory he had hoped for was not going to materialize on Thursday, the 7th anniversary of the act's passage, when the legislation was scheduled for a vote. 2 of his most influential advisors, Stephen Bannon, his chief strategist, and Gary Cohn, the National Economic Council director who had a major role in pushing the bill, came to agree and did not like the compromise that was emerging. So on Thursday night, Mr. Trump delivered an ultimatum. He dispatched his budget advisor, Mike Mulvaney, to a conference of House Republicans and told them they had to vote on Friday. And if the bill fails, he said, Trump will move on. Wow. But you see how that seems to be at cross purposes. You got to vote. You got to do it now. But I think the president might be in a stronger position if he came out with those who are questioning the bill and said, no, we're going to have to go back to Speaker Ryan. This bill is not acceptable to us. Wow, would that throw the political establishment upside down? And I think score a victory for the president. Now, some would say it will also create a wound between he and the Speaker that would not be easily healed. But the people voted for him and the majority, not the Speaker. Let's go to Joanne. You wanted to say what, Joanne? Where are you calling from, Joanne?
Michigan.
Michigan.
I wanted to
what do
say
you make of
that
this?
I believe that this is part of Trump's art of the deal, and I think it's a way of getting rid of Paul Ryan.
Interesting. But you know, if that were the case, though, Joanne, he would do just as I said. He would be calling this Ryan Care, which is what Mike Pence advised, who's no dummy when it comes to congressional maneuvers. He was in leadership, and he's a friend of Paul Ryan's. But he was advising the president, call it Ryan Care, keep your distance. President Trump didn't do that. So that undermines the argument a little bit, but it's a fascinating idea. Why do you think that? Why do you think that's what he's doing? You think he's setting Paul Ryan up?
Absolutely.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. I'm going to tell you the other difficulty. And if you talk to members on Capitol Hill, and I mean not, I'm talking Freedom Caucus members, conservative members, they will tell you there is no one else to fill the void here. That Paul Ryan, though he's not, beloved by everybody, he's the only voice of unity they could find. And with Ryan off the map, you have a problem holding the fractious divisions in the Republican caucus together. The pro-life people, the budget hawks, the defense hawks, all those people, it's a grab bag. It's not an easy caucus to keep together. So that's another piece of it here. But thank you for the call. We are going to take a very quick break. When we return, we'll dig deeper into the healthcare holdup happening on Capitol Hill. I'm not sure about this bill. I'm not sure at all. I think it leads to as many difficulties as it pretends to cure. And I do worry politically about the president and the Speaker and the Republican caucus putting so much faith in a bill that was cobbled together in the same way that Obamacare was. I don't think this gets us out of the hole. But we'll find out together. The Laura Ingraham Show continues, 855-405-2872. And I'll also share with you, again, more information on this wiretapping charge. When the president said the Obama administration wiretapped Trump Tower, he might have been right in a big way. I guess he'd say big league. We'll find out. Stay right here. Raymond Arroyo sitting in for Laura Ingraham. We'll be right back. Raymond Arroyo sitting in for Laura Ingraham. I want to hear from you. You know, too often we hear from politicians. I frankly think hearing from all the politicians is the wrong way to go, because what happens is they start to talk. They're in their own echo chamber. They're talking to themselves. They're worried about re-election. I want to know how the people who went out and voted, and you all voted in overwhelming numbers for the president, for this majority on Capitol Hill, is this what you wanted? Are you happy that the Freedom Caucus is standing up and saying, no, we don't want this bill? The president, it seems privately, is really upset with the direction he feels he's sort of been led down the rabbit hole by Paul Ryan. But publicly, he's fully supportive and really angry with outside groups, including the Freedom Caucus, for not budging. He feels they should move on this thing. It's part of the process. It's part of the deal. This is part one. We're going to fix more later. And let's face it, no matter what they get out of the House, the Senate's going to radically alter whatever it is. Reconciliation is where the action will happen. Let's go to the phones. I want your reaction to all of this. Let's see here. John from California. Your thoughts on this as you see this push to vote. And, you know, if they're whipping votes this hard, they might squeak it through.
My thoughts are just in hearing conservative talk radio, a lot of people are talking about the Freedom Caucus and free markets. And for the most part, Americans don't like free markets. And even a lot of the people calling in and talking about the Freedom Caucus, that they support the Freedom Caucus, if free markets in healthcare actually hit them, and these are supposedly conservative people, they wouldn't like it. I personally would love free markets in healthcare. It would help me. But every senior citizen calling in talking about free markets, if they actually had to deal in free markets, it would be catastrophic for them. And that includes, again, conservatives who call themselves conservatives. They actually talk about free markets, but they actually don't really want free markets.
John, you make a very good point. Free markets at times are ugly, because in free markets you have upturns and you have downturns. And at times you're going to pay more for your premiums because the market is driving it, and at other times they're going to drop and you're going to feel really good. It's like gas prices, which is also regulated to death. But let's pretend for a moment. But you're right. I think the bitter medicine of a free market corrective is what everybody's really fearing. And that's why you see Paul Ryan and others working to insert all of these other props to make everybody feel good at election time. But you're right. There's no quick fix here. Everybody's going to be upset with the outcome of this bill, as they have been with Obamacare. Obamacare moved in the other direction. It was total government control, mandates, controlling and regulating the insurance markets. It was draconian. The Republicans have to find a solution that moves us in the direction of a free market, but alleviates some of the pain. That's a hard balance. We'll have much more ahead. We're going to talk to some Congress people being pressured to vote for this bill when the Laura Ingraham Show continues. Stay right here. Trying to get answers on this wiretapping claim. Now, he made the charge earlier this week. Indeed, he shared with the public that he had information that would indicate that the Trump team was surveilled. So it may not have been wiretapping, but it may have been wiretapping. He certainly read transcripts, and the question is, in these transcripts, identities are withheld. Okay, you read a transcript and they are masked. Only a handful of people have the knowledge to unmask those individuals who are captured in these intelligence scans. Well, apparently, members of the Trump team were unmasked to expose them to scrutiny, and there may have been members of the Obama administration who collected this data before the inauguration with the intent of setting up the Trump team. So they believe it was indirect monitoring of the Trump team by targeting individuals that the Trump team was probably already talking to in foreign governments, etc. So it may have been done with intent. There is supposedly a smoking gun coming from the NSA. Those documents are forthcoming, but Chairman Nunes says don't expect it today. He expects it later. This is all very involved. I'm trying to decode it and unpack it for you. We are, of course, talking health care. We're monitoring this, the vote coming any moment. Dr. George from Florida is on the line. You wanted to say what? And as a, I assume you're a medical doctor, correct?
Yes, I practice medicine in Canada and now in Florida. I understand when the government dominates health care. Get the nanny state out of Ryan Care. That's the problem. The government always messes things up. Free markets, give people freedom and choice, get the cost down. That's the barrier, is the cost. And without tort reform and without buying insurance across state lines, you're never going to solve this problem. If you have a car in your driveway that has a dying motor and it's Obamacare, if you just put a new hood ornament on it, but you don't fix the motor, it'll never run. And what Ryan Care does is put a new hood ornament on a car that will never run. And so that's the issue. We need to get the government, the nanny state, out of healthcare.
The question, Doctor, is how do you do that? As one of our callers earlier said, if you put in free market, an entirely free market approach to healthcare today, half of the conservatives or more would be caterwauling because, hey, where's my Medicare? Wait a minute, where's my, you would have that. So politically it becomes untenable. That's why you see them coming in with these, what amounts to the Cornhusker kickback part 2, where everybody's looking for their little subsidy or piece or change or amendment or, backstop in the health care bill. It becomes a big basket of giveaways for the insurance companies and for others.
Absolutely. That's the problem. We need to get the Freedom Caucus to hold the line today and not and vote no on this bill.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's hard for them because they're being pressured not only by leadership but the president as well. He wants the president wants a win on the board. That's what he wants. He needs to do that, I think, for himself. He feels he needs to do that. But the question is, at what cost? You are going to be held accountable and branded with whatever happens as a result of this health care bill. I don't like the rush. I just think if it's something as important as health care and it's been in place for 8 years, the Republicans should have had a credible plan to not only repeal but replace. What are the answers? How do you fix the gaps? How do you create free market solutions that will lift people and draw more people into health care by their own free will, not by government fiat and mandate? That apparently has eluded them. But we'll see what happens today in the votes. Thanks for your call, Dr. George. Rich, you wanted to say what?
Yeah, hi, good morning. I just seem to think that choice and competition is what drives the cost down. Mm-hmm. So if we all actually got one of the healthcare or health savings accounts that President Trump talked about during the campaign, they contribute to that, and they let us choose the plan. And then let's make the insurance companies cater to us instead of us to them.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Well, I think if you listen to members in Congress, in fact, we're joined by one here now, you will hear they believe this is a process, and this is the first part of that process. But I'll let one of them speak for themselves. We're joined now by Congressman Sean Duffy from Wisconsin, a member of the Banking Committee and a person you've seen all over the media these days. Congressman Duffy, thanks for being with us.
It is good to be with you, Raymond. Thanks for having me on.
Do you believe in the end the House is going to pass this bill? I know there's a lot of pressure being applied. And are you supporting it, and why?
So I'm not sure. I'm 50-50 on my belief whether this bill is going to pass or not. And can I just back up a little bit, Raymond, and kind of tell you what I think the differences are in the Republican Party?
Yes.
There's 2 points of contention that are coming from the Freedom Caucus members. And I'm going to support this bill, and I'll tell you why in a second. But
okay.
Number one is the Freedom Caucus will say there's some the essential requirements of health care, the mandates of a health care. So you got to buy health insurance. I'm sorry, you got to buy maternity coverage. You have to keep kids on until 26 years old. There's a number of those requirements in Obamacare that drive up the cost of care. and we want to get rid of them and allow insurance plans to offer people products that work for them and the risks in their lives.
Right.
Well, we all agree we want to take away those requirements. We're doing this through reconciliation, and there's Senate rules that we're trying to play by on what can and can't be in this bill. So the disagreement that we have isn't about taking those mandates away. The disagreement is what can be in this bill and survive in the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one disagreement that we have, and I'm listening. I'm going to take Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan's word for it, because we don't. If we get this wrong, this bill is fatal and could tank in the Senate.
Right.
Number one. The second concern that or issue that comes up is we're not taking away the power from the Secretary of Health and Human Services that Obamacare gave him. Well, I want to let Secretary Price use all the tools under Obamacare to make free markets work. And once he uses those to get markets to work, then we can take that power away so they aren't given to the next Democrat administration. But to take that power away now, I think doesn't make sense. Let's use it to our benefit, and after we have, then we take it away.
Okay, let's go back
to
the first.
Those are two big disagreements right now.
Let's go to the point you're making about the just to clarify for the listening audience. Obamacare required certain elements to be part of an insurance package, and they mandated all kinds of things that, frankly, you didn't need. Maternity care for older people and crazy stuff. But that survives in this bill. You all are saying, and I've heard Speaker Ryan say, well, we'll take care of that in reconciliation. How do you take care of it in reconciliation if there's no benchmark in your bill? So it goes to the Senate. There's no support for taking those bloated insurance products out there. So how do you fix it in reconciliation when the House has not put down any marker demonstrating that it wants them out?
So we take some of them out. We don't take all of them out because we're told that if we do, it won't meet the Senate rules of reconciliation. And reconciliation is important because that's when you only need 51 votes. If we don't use reconciliation, we need 60 votes in the Senate. And that means you need 8 Democrats to vote for this bill, and you won't get those 8 votes. So what you can do is we can send, if we don't take away because we don't feel like we can in the reconciliation package from the House, if we don't take those essential benefits, those mandates away, when it goes to the Senate, the senators can offer amendments to this bill on the floor. And Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, they can take all of that stuff out in the Senate when it gets there. We don't prohibit the Senate from making amendments to this bill, and they can do things in the Senate that we can't in the House. So this is a procedural debate that we're having, Raymond. But it's important. I want the listeners to understand this as well. This is what we call this is one and done. In reconciliation, we get one shot. So if this bill, when it comes up today, if it fails, you can't bring this bill up next week or 2 weeks from now. You've lost the opportunity. So this is the one shot that Americans have with Republicans to repeal Obamacare through reconciliation.
You can't. So in other words, we can't amend this bill and bring forward another repeal and replace bill for health care. Is that what you're saying? Under reconciliation, the reconciliation rules are such that you can only do one bill. And if it fails, the process is over. You're done. And why this is important is we take away next. That's right. Well, there's a second reconciliation that we're going to be able to do in about 2 months, right? And what's important is we want to get rid of the $1 trillion of taxes in Obamacare, right? In this bill that we do that. And so then when we do tax reform, our baseline is $1 trillion less than it is right now. And we're going to use reconciliation for tax reform. But the rules of reconciliation and taxes is it has to be revenue neutral. So if we do tax reform and we have to keep $1 trillion of Obamacare taxes, we're not able to lower rates for people and for businesses and make America competitive. So given all of that,
we can do tax reform.
Yeah, this is very granular and I think important because we're hearing a lot of the kind of political back and forth and the palace intrigue, but we miss the this part of it that unless you have reconciliation rules in play, the Republicans are not going to get anything through the House and Senate. So you've got to rig the game so that the outcome is the one you want, and you only have one shot to do it, and this is the shot. Does that explain the president's being so adamant about this bill passing now? We're going to do it, and we're going to do it today. Or do you think it's a bit presumptuous to force a vote today when you might not have the votes, given what's at stake, given what you just laid out?
So given what I've laid out, which is that we all are trying to get to the same endpoint, we have a different viewpoint on the rules. The rules of reconciliation aren't going to be different a week from now than they are today. And so I think what the president said is, this is the best it's going to get. I support this package. I've worked with Paul Ryan. I've worked with Freedom Caucus members. I've worked with the squishes in the Republican Party. I've worked with everybody. I've done the best I can. Now it's your job. If you want to actually take the mantle and try to lead and repeal Obamacare, this is your shot to do it. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to take the opportunity to lead, you guys can sit and fight amongst yourselves, but fighting amongst yourselves, looking for perfection to the enemy of a good product, you can go back and sell that to your constituents. But I think you're going to leave Obamacare in place for a long time into the future, and you promised America that you would fix health care, and you're not going to do it.
Where do you think the vote is now?
Raymond,
go ahead.
I think it's close. I think and I don't know what happened, last night and this morning. I know as of yesterday, we were multiple of votes short. But this is inside the Republican Party. People understand that this is the one shot, and if we choose not to take it, and again, if this bill isn't perfect because of the rules, the senators have every opportunity to do their good work over there with
to amend and transform it
and to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Give me a sense in our last minute here.
You'll never,
Congressman Sean Duffy.
Raymond, you never get there unless we pass this bill.
Congressman Duffy, in our final minute here, give me a sense of the tenor and spirit of conversations happening and the pressure being exerted upon members now in the Republican caucus, particularly those Freedom Caucus members.
Well, when President Trump came over early in the week, I listened to the news reports. They were false. He was jovial, it was good-spirited, but he made sure everyone understood how important this was. Right now, we're having a really honest conversation. People are talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, the process that's being used, and I think this is a come to Jesus moment, if you will, for many people in our party to say, do I want to repeal it? Is this good enough for me, or do I want to forego any plan or opportunity to repeal Obamacare and let Obamacare stand? That's the question that's being asked today, and I hope this bill passes. This is the one shot. Let's take it, Raymond.
Congressman Sean Duffy, we will be in touch with you in the coming days and be watching this vote. Thanks for your time. And the number, 855-405-2872. I want your reaction to what you just heard. This may be the only shot Republicans have. Congressman Duffy and the Speaker and many others are saying, what's your reaction? Should they take their shot? Call us now. The Laura Ingraham Show continues. Raymond Arroyo sitting in for the great lady. Stay right there.